My director called me disposable in front of everyone. That day, he created his own replacement. Hey everyone. My name's Ava Daniels. I'd worked at Crestline Marketing for 6 years. But one Monday morning, I learned just how valued I really was. Before we start, drop your location in the comments. Where are you watching from? I love seeing our global community. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss these stories. And don't forget to like and share this video. Now let's dive in. The conference room was packed with 30 executives. I stood at the front, clicking through my quarterly presentation. My hands trembled slightly as I spoke about our client retention strategies. I'd spent 3 weeks preparing this analysis, perfecting every slide, checking every number twice. Then Daniel interrupted. My director leaned back in his chair, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. You know what, Ava, he said loudly, cutting through my sentence. Let's be honest with everyone here. The room went quiet. My stomach dropped. He looked around at the other executives, playing to his audience. Ava's a replaceable cog. A disposable employee. We could train someone fresh out of college to do this in a week. Laughter erupted around the table. Not nervous laughter, real amusement. My face burned hot. I gripped the clicker so hard my knuckles turned white. Our eyes locked for one terrible second. Something inside me cracked. Not my spirit exactly, but my loyalty. My trust. My willingness to keep playing nice in a system designed to break me. I set down the clicker, grabbed my laptop, and walked toward the door. Behind me, voices rose in confusion. Someone from HR called my name. But I kept walking. I already knew, I was done. My inbox exploded within minutes. Coworkers sent pitying messages, "Are you okay?" And that was harsh. Others forwarded screenshots with laughing emojis, turning my humiliation into office gossip. I sat in my car in the parking garage, hands shaking, reading message after message. Around noon, Daniel knocked on my office door. I'd returned only to pack my things. He walked in without waiting for permission, closing the door behind him. Hey, look, I might have come on a bit strong back there, he said casually, not quite meeting my eyes. You humiliated me in front of 30 people, I said quietly. He waved his hand dismissively. It was a motivational push. You're too sensitive, Ava. I was trying to light a fire under you. His tone suggested I should be grateful. I stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. This wasn't a mistake or a bad day. This was calculated cruelty. He'd targeted me deliberately, probably planned it before the meeting even started. Get out of my office, I whispered. He laughed, muttered something about drama queens, and left. The second the door closed, I opened my laptop and started typing. My resignation letter took exactly 4 minutes to write. I scheduled the resignation email to send Monday morning. The weekend dragged by in a fog of anger and relief. Monday, my phone buzzed constantly. Daniel called twice. I ignored both calls. My team sent shocked messages. I responded only to the kind ones. At 10 a.m., Daniel appeared at my desk. This is disappointing, Ava, he said, loud enough for nearby cubicles to hear. I thought you had more backbone. I stood up, gathering my last personal items, a coffee mug, a framed photo, a small plant. He stepped closer, opening his arms for a hug I definitely didn't want. You'll regret this, he said, that smirk creeping back. We move fast here. You'll be forgotten by Friday. I pulled away from his awkward embrace and looked him directly in the eyes. That's exactly why you'll miss me when I'm gone, I replied calmly. His smile faltered slightly. I turned toward the elevator, box in my arms, and noticed something on his desk through the glass wall of his office. Confidential files spread across his desk. Documents that shouldn't be left out in plain view. I recognized the logo, our biggest competitor. My phone was already in my hand. I took a quick photo, zooming in just enough to capture the header. Then I walked out. HR threw together a goodbye gathering Thursday afternoon. Sad sheet cake, weak coffee, forced small talk. People hugged me and whispered that they'd miss me. I appreciated the sentiment but saw the fear in their eyes, fear that they might be next. Daniel gave a speech. Ava taught us something valuable, he announced, holding up a plastic cup of punch. She taught us that mistakes can be learning opportunities. Sometimes we realize too late that we're not cut out for the pace here. I smiled tightly, nodding along. He had no idea what I knew. That photo sat in my phone like a bomb waiting to detonate. The files I'd photographed showed Daniel pitching our proprietary client database to Meridian Corp, our biggest competitor. Corporate espionage, plain and simple. As people drifted back to work, I checked my phone. A LinkedIn notification caught my attention, a message request from someone named Lydia Martinez. The preview read, "You're not the only one he's burned. We need to talk." My heart raced. I accepted the request immediately and replied, "Coffee tomorrow?" Her response came within seconds, "I'll send you an address. Come alone." I left the office carrying my sad box of belongings, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Something bigger was starting. I could feel it. Lydia suggested a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. I arrived early, ordered tea, and waited nervously. She walked in exactly on time, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and an expensive briefcase. "Ava Chen," she asked quietly. I nodded. She sat down, pulling out a tablet. "I worked in accounting for 6 years. Daniel pushed me out last year, same pattern. Public humiliation, manufactured mistakes, forced resignation." My jaw tightened. I thought I was the only one. Lydia shook her head. "You're the 4th woman in 3 years. He has a system. He takes credit for our work, then eliminates us when we become threatening or when he needs a scapegoat." She swiped through files on her tablet, spreadsheets, emails, internal memos. "I kept everything. Look at this." She showed me financial records with Daniel's signature. Revenue numbers that didn't match our actual reports. Client deals listed as closed when they'd actually fallen through. "He's been cooking the books?" I whispered. Lydia nodded grimly. "For at least 2 years. But here's the interesting part, nobody catches it because he's good at covering tracks. And anyone who might notice gets pushed out." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo from his desk. Her eyes widened. "That's Meridian. Ava, this is bigger than workplace bullying. This is criminal." We sat in silence, both realizing we held something dangerous and powerful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, weighing options. Part of me wanted to walk away clean, start fresh somewhere else, forget Daniel existed. But another part, the part that remembered 30 executives laughing at me, wanted justice. I called my therapist the next morning, asking for an emergency session. Dr. Patel listened as I explained everything. "What do you think I should do?" I asked finally. She leaned forward slightly. "What do you want to do?" "I want him to face consequences," I admitted. "But everyone says revenge won't heal me." Dr. Patel nodded slowly. "Revenge won't heal you. That's true. But pursuing justice isn't the same as revenge. One is about evening a score. The other is about preventing future harm." I smiled sadly. "So which one is this?" She met my eyes. "That depends on your motivation. If you're doing this to hurt him, it's revenge. If you're doing this to protect others from him, it's justice. I left her office with clarity. This wasn't about destroying Daniel. It was about stopping him. That afternoon, I went to the county clerk's office and filed paperwork for a new business entity, Helix Strategy Group. My consulting firm. My fresh start. But I kept Lydia's files and my photographs saved in 3 separate locations. Just in case justice required a little help. Helix Strategy Group launched quietly. I designed a simple website, reached out to former clients, and offered strategic consulting services. My specialty? The exact work I'd done for Daniel's company, client retention analysis and business development strategies. Word spread faster than expected. Within 3 weeks, I had 2 small contracts. Within 6 weeks, I'd signed 4 more. All of them were former clients of Daniel's company who'd grown frustrated with declining service. I didn't badmouth my old workplace. I just delivered better results. My work spoke for itself. I created detailed reports, responded quickly to questions, and actually implemented the strategies I recommended. Novel concept. One client told me, "This is what we thought we were paying for all along." Then came the big opportunity. Margaret Reeves, a major tech investor, requested a meeting. I recognized her name immediately. Daniel's team had been courting her company for 8 months, trying to land a consulting contract worth over $2 million. I accepted the meeting, my pulse racing with anticipation. This could change everything. The meeting was scheduled for next Tuesday at Rosewood Restaurant, a sleek downtown spot known for business dinners. I researched Margaret thoroughly, prepared a custom pitch, and practiced my presentation until it was flawless. Tuesday morning, I dressed carefully, adding confidence with each layer. This was my moment. I walked into Rosewood at exactly 6 p.m. The hostess led me toward a private dining area in the back. As we rounded the corner, I froze. Daniel sat at the table, laughing with 2 associates. He was already there. Pitching Margaret. The hostess called out, "Ms. Reeves? Your 6 o'clock is here." Margaret looked up from the far end of the table, waving at me with a warm smile. Daniel's head snapped around. His face went pale. "Ava Chen from Helix Strategy Group," Margaret announced cheerfully. I invited her to join us. I wanted to compare approaches before making a final decision. Daniel's jaw clenched. His associates exchanged confused glances. I walked to the table with my head high, extending my hand to Margaret. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said smoothly. The next 40 minutes were excruciating for Daniel. I presented refined versions of the same strategies he'd just pitched, but with better data, clearer implementation plans, and proven results from my recent clients. Margaret asked sharp questions. I answered each one confidently. Daniel tried interrupting twice, both times fumbling his words. By dessert, the decision was obvious. Margaret stood, shaking my hand firmly. "I'll have contracts drawn up for Helix by Friday." She glanced at Daniel apologetically. "I appreciate your time, but I think we're looking for a different direction." She walked out with me, leaving Daniel sitting at the table, speechless. The office apparently exploded with rumors the next day. I heard about it through Marcus, a former colleague who'd stayed friendly. "Everyone's talking about Ava's new company," he texted. "People say you're stealing clients." Daniel's playing it cool, but he looked shaken during morning huddle. I smiled at my phone. Good. Let him feel uncertain for once. Marcus sent another text. "He checked your website during lunch. Sat at his desk for 20 minutes just scrolling through your portfolio." That night, I logged into my website analytics. Sure enough, multiple visits from an IP address registered to Daniel's company. He'd clicked through every page, read every case study, examined every client testimonial. He'd recognize his own strategies instantly, the frameworks he'd claimed credit for, the analysis models I'd actually created. Except now they were refined, improved, stripped of his arrogance and inefficiency. I imagined him sitting in his office, slowly realizing what he'd lost. Not just an employee. Not just someone to humiliate. He'd lost the person actually doing the work that made him look competent. Around 11 p.m., my business email pinged. A message from an anonymous sender, subject line, FYI. The email contained a single sentence: "He's planning to destroy your reputation. Thought you should know." Attached was a screenshot of an internal company Slack channel. Daniel's message read, "Ava Chen stole proprietary data before leaving. I'm alerting HR and legal. This ends now." My stomach dropped. He was coming for me. The smear campaign started immediately. Daniel leaked carefully worded rumors, nothing he could be sued for, but enough to plant doubt. Former employees leaving with sensitive client information. Concerns about data security breaches. Investigating potential intellectual property theft. Former colleagues messaged me nervously. HR is asking about you, one warned. They're interviewing everyone who worked near you. I stayed calm publicly but panicked privately. If this stuck, my new business would die before it even started. Friday afternoon, a courier arrived at my apartment. Legal documents. Daniel's company was suing me for theft of trade secrets, breach of contract, and something called tortious interference with business relationships. The lawsuit demanded I shut down Helix Strategy Group and pay damages of $500,000. I sat on my couch, hands shaking, reading through 23 pages of legal language designed to intimidate me into surrender. They claimed I'd stolen client lists, proprietary methodologies, and confidential business strategies. But I had something they didn't know about. I pulled up the photo from Daniel's desk, the one showing his deal with our competitor. I also had Lydia's financial evidence. And I had documentation proving everything I'd created was mine, timestamped files, personal emails, my own purchase receipts for software I'd used at home. I called a lawyer that night. Not just any lawyer, the best employment attorney in the city. Her name was Jennifer Park, and she had a reputation for destroying corporate bullies. "Tell me everything," she said when we met Monday morning. And I did. Jennifer listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, she smiled slowly. "They made a big mistake going after you." I showed her the photo of Daniel's deal with Meridian. Her eyebrows rose. "This is corporate espionage. This is what they're accusing you of doing, but Daniel actually did it." She made notes quickly. "We're going to file a counterclaim. Not just defending against their lawsuit, we're going after him and the company for wrongful termination, workplace harassment, defamation, and yes, actual corporate espionage." My heart pounded. "Can we win?" "We're going to bury them," Jennifer said confidently. She drafted our response over the next 3 days. The counterclaim was devastating, 47 pages documenting Daniel's pattern of behavior, supported by Lydia's evidence and testimony from 2 other women who'd been pushed out. We filed on Thursday. By Friday afternoon, I got a text from Marcus. "Holy hell. They just froze Daniel's corporate accounts. Emergency meeting in progress." "What did you do?" I didn't respond. I sat in my apartment, hands wrapped around a cup of tea, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Not just hope that I'd survive. Hope that real change might actually happen. Jennifer called that evening. "Their lawyers want to talk. They're scared, Ava. The board just realized Daniel's been operating without oversight for years." "Good," I whispered. "Let them be scared." The company started imploding from within. Marcus kept me updated through careful, encrypted messages. Daniel's team is turning on him, he reported. People who used to worship him are suddenly remembering incidents they witnessed. The CFO launched an internal audit. They discovered discrepancies everywhere: inflated revenue projections, fictional client deals, missing funds from discretionary accounts. Daniel had been building a house of cards for years, and now the wind was blowing. Tuesday morning, I received a message from inside the company. The sender identified themselves only as a friend. You started something important. People are finally speaking up. Daniel manipulated everyone. He's losing control. They're turning on him. Thank you for being brave enough to fight back. I read the message 3 times, tears blurring my vision. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. How much I doubted whether fighting back was worth the stress and fear. Jennifer called with an update. The board wants to settle. They're offering full vindication, a public apology, and a financial settlement. But here's the interesting part: they also want to offer you a consulting contract to help clean up Daniel's mess. I laughed bitterly. They want me to fix what he broke. Jennifer's tone was carefully neutral. It's your choice. But it might be satisfying to walk back in there on your own terms. I told her I'd think about it. That night, I couldn't sleep, imagining Daniel's face when he found out. What do you think about Ava's revenge so far? Is she going too far, or is this pure justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you're loving this story, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The emergency board meeting happened on Thursday. Marcus managed to text me updates in real time. Daniel just walked in. He looks terrible. Hasn't slept in days probably. I imagined him in that conference room, facing the same executives who'd laughed at his jokes about me. He's blaming you for everything, Marcus reported. Says you orchestrated a sabotage campaign. Says you're lying to destroy him because he gave you honest feedback. I rolled my eyes. Honest feedback. That's what he called public humiliation now. CFO just stood up. Oh man. He's presenting evidence. Financial records. Emails. Everything. My phone buzzed continuously as Marcus sent updates. Daniel's face is bright red. He's shouting. Security just stepped inside the room. Board chair just called for order. She's asking Daniel direct questions. He's fumbling answers. Someone just said corporate espionage out loud. My heart raced. This was it. The moment everything came crashing down around him. They're asking him to step outside. The board is deliberating privately now. Holy crap, Ava, this is intense. I paced my apartment, phone clutched in my hand. 20 minutes passed. 30. Then, they suspended him. Effective immediately. Pending full investigation. He's being escorted out by security right now. I sat down heavily, feeling dizzy. It was really happening. Daniel was finally facing consequences. But I knew this was just the beginning. I made a decision that night. If the board wanted to bury this quietly, protect their reputation, and move on like nothing happened, I wouldn't let them. The evidence Lydia and I had collected, the proof of Daniel's deal with Meridian, deserved public attention. I created an anonymous email account and wrote to 3 business journalists I respected. I attached documents showing Daniel's attempted sale of proprietary client data to a competitor. I included context without revealing my identity. This behavior has been tolerated for years. These documents prove corporate espionage within a major consulting firm. The public deserves to know. E-headline. Daniel's photo appeared on business news sites, his face frozen in that familiar smirk from some company event. The article detailed the allegations without naming sources. It mentioned whistleblowers coming forward and patterns of misconduct stretching back several years. My phone exploded with messages from former colleagues. Did you see this? Is this about Daniel? Oh my God. By Sunday, the story had spread everywhere. Competitors commented on it. Industry experts weighed in. Daniel's LinkedIn profile went silent. His Twitter account disappeared. I watched it unfold with mixed feelings. Satisfaction, yes. But also sadness for what could have been if he'd just been a decent person. He called me Sunday night. I almost didn't answer. His voice was barely recognizable. Ava, please. You have to understand, they're going to ruin me. He sounded broken, desperate, nothing like the confident man who'd called me disposable. I didn't do this to you, Daniel, I said quietly. You did this to yourself. He laughed bitterly. No. You orchestrated this whole thing. The lawsuit, the media, everything. You set me up. I felt a flash of anger. Even now, he couldn't take responsibility. I documented the truth. You want to blame someone? Blame yourself for stealing company data. Blame yourself for humiliating people. Blame yourself for thinking you could get away with it forever. They're freezing my assets, he whispered. My reputation is destroyed. My career is over. Are you happy now? I took a deep breath. I'm not happy, Daniel. I'm just done being scared of you. Silence stretched between us. Then his tone changed, darkened. You think you're safe now? I know things about you too, Ava. Personal things. Things that could hurt you. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Try to destroy me, he hissed, and I'll make sure everyone knows your secrets too. Don't test me. He hung up before I could respond. I sat frozen, my mind racing. What secrets? What could he possibly know? And how far was he willing to go? I spent the week looking over my shoulder, waiting for whatever bomb Daniel planned to drop. Jennifer assured me we had legal protections, but fear not at me anyway. What had he found? Then Lydia called. I heard something. Through the network. She paused. Daniel's been having an affair. With CEO Richard Chen's wife. My jaw dropped. What? Lydia continued, apparently it's been going on for months. Richard doesn't know. But Daniel's been careless. There are emails. Hotel receipts. Everything. How did you find this? I asked. Lydia hesitated. One of the other women he pushed out. She kept dirt on him, just in case. She thought you should know since he's threatening you. I absorbed this information. Daniel's secret weapon against me was his own affair with the CEO's wife. The irony was stunning. What are you going to do? Lydia asked. I thought about his threat, his arrogance, his complete inability to take responsibility. I'm going to record our next conversation, I decided. If he threatens me again, we'll have proof. And then we'll see what happens. 2 days later, Daniel called again. I was ready. My recording app was open. Ava, I need to talk, he started. His tone was different, calculating, not desperate. I'm listening, I said calmly, watching the timer count seconds. There's a way we both walk away from this. You drop everything, I drop everything. And if I don't? His voice hardened. Then I start talking. About your past. About things people don't know. You mean you'll lie about me? I mean I'll tell uncomfortable truths. Your choice. I smiled. Daniel, you should know, I'm recording this call. And I know about you and Richard's wife. Silence. Pure, beautiful silence. Then, you're bluffing. Am I? Should we test that theory? The recording reached Richard Chen's private email within hours. I didn't send it, Lydia did, through yet another anonymous account. But the effect was immediate and devastating. Richard called an emergency board meeting Monday morning. Daniel was summoned to headquarters. Marcus texted updates again. Richard just played a recording in the boardroom. Daniel's voice. Threatening someone. Nobody knows who. Then Richard asked Daniel about his wife. Daniel went pale. My heart pounded. This was messier than I wanted. More personal. But Daniel had forced this escalation. Board voted unanimously. Daniel's suspended indefinitely. No severance. They're discussing criminal charges. Richard looks like he wants to strangle him. I sat at my desk at home, processing everything. It was over. Really over. Daniel's career, his reputation, his life as he knew it, demolished. Wednesday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened it cautiously. Daniel stood there, disheveled, eyes red. Security wasn't with him. Nobody was. He'd come alone. Can I come in? He asked quietly. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. He walked into my living room slowly, looking around like he'd never seen a normal apartment before. I lost everything, he said finally. I didn't respond. He turned to face me. My job. My marriage, well, I didn't have one, but now Richard's wife won't speak to me. My savings are frozen. And you're the new golden child. I'm not anyone's golden child, I replied. I just refuse to be your victim. He looked at me for a long moment. They want you back. Did you know that? The board. They want to hire you as an executive consultant. To fix everything I broke. The official offer arrived Friday. Executive consultant position, reporting directly to the board. My job would be to audit the entire strategic division, implement new ethical guidelines, and rebuild client relationships Daniel had damaged. The salary was staggering. Jennifer reviewed the contract carefully. This is legitimate. They're serious about reform. I stared at the paperwork. The same office that had humiliated me now wanted me back. The same boardroom where executives had laughed at Daniel's insult now offered me a seat at the table. It's your choice, Jennifer reminded me. You don't owe them anything. But I thought about the other employees, the good people trapped in a toxic culture Daniel had created. I thought about preventing future Daniels from hurting future Avas. I signed the contract Monday morning. My first day was Wednesday. As I walked into the building, I felt strange, victorious but cautious. The receptionist welcomed me warmly. Ms. Chen. Your office is ready. 5th floor, corner office. I rode the elevator up, my stomach fluttering. The doors opened. My new office was glass-walled, spacious, overlooking the city. And it was directly across from Daniel's old office, which now sat empty. I was unpacking my laptop when someone knocked. I turned. Daniel stood in the doorway, somehow having talked his way past security. His laugh was bitter, broken. Unbelievable. They gave you everything. I met his eyes calmly. They gave me a job, Daniel. Nothing more. They'll use you like they used me, he said. You'll see. I shook my head. No. Because I won't become you. Richard Chen requested a private meeting my second week. We sat in his office, him behind a massive desk, me in a guest chair that suddenly felt small. I want to apologize personally, he began. For what Daniel did. For what we allowed to happen under our watch. I nodded, unsure how to respond. He continued, the board has discussed offering you Daniel's former position permanently. Director of Strategic Operations. Full authority, team of 20, seat at executive meetings. My breath caught. Director. The exact title Daniel once held. The same position he'd used to humiliate me. I need time to think, I managed to say. Richard smiled slightly. Of course. But Ava? We need people like you. People with integrity. People who won't repeat Daniel's mistakes. I left his office feeling dizzy. Could I actually do this? Could I sit in that seat, in that role, and not become corrupted by power like Daniel had? That evening, I called Dr. Patel for an emergency session. This feels too big, I admitted. What if I fail? What if I become like him? She leaned forward. Ava, the fact that you're asking these questions means you won't. Daniel never questioned himself. You do. That's the difference. 3 days later, I accepted the position. The announcement went company-wide, Ava Chen named new Director of Strategic Operations. Within minutes, congratulations flooded my inbox. And somewhere, I knew, Daniel was watching. The press conference announcing my appointment was scheduled for a rainy Tuesday. Media had been following the company's scandal closely, and they wanted to see who'd replace Daniel. I wore a navy suit, practiced my talking points, and tried to appear confident. As I walked toward the podium, I noticed movement in the back of the room. Daniel. He'd somehow gotten inside, standing against the wall, looking disheveled and desperate. Security started toward him, but I shook my head slightly. Let him watch. I spoke about integrity, accountability, and rebuilding trust. I outlined new ethics policies and client protection measures. Journalists asked sharp questions. I answered each one honestly. Finally, a reporter asked, "What do you say to your predecessor, Daniel Morrison?" I paused, finding Daniel's face in the crowd. He looked at me with something between hatred and pleading. I say this, I replied slowly. You called me disposable. You were right about someone, just not me. His face crumpled. Security quietly escorted him out as cameras flashed. Later, scrolling through news coverage, I saw a photo of him being led away, shoulders slumped. Marcus texted, that was cold. Also deserved. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. Relieved. Ready to move forward. That night, I received an anonymous email. The subject line read, "Thank you." Inside was a simple message, I was planning to quit because of how Daniel treated me. You gave me hope that things can change. Thank you for fighting back. A grateful employee. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. This was why it mattered. 3 months into my new role, I discovered something troubling. While reviewing historical financial records, I found irregularities that went beyond Daniel's misconduct. Money had been redirected from client accounts into shell companies. Not by Daniel, these transactions predated him. I traced the signatures. Richard Chen. The CEO. He'd been embezzling for at least 5 years. Daniel had likely discovered it and used it as leverage, allowing his own bad behavior because Richard couldn't fire him without exposing himself. I sat in my office, staring at spreadsheets, feeling sick. The corruption went higher than anyone knew. If I exposed this, the entire company could collapse. Hundreds of employees would lose their jobs. But if I stayed silent, I'd become complicit. I made copies of everything, transactions, emails, board meeting minutes. I secured them in 3 locations, including with Jennifer. Then I spent a sleepless week deciding what to do. The answer came while meeting with a young analyst named Sophie. She talked excitedly about her career goals, her hope of making a difference. She trusted this company. She trusted the leadership. I couldn't let that trust be built on lies. Friday evening, I created another anonymous account. I sent the financial evidence to the SEC, the board's independent auditors, and 2 investigative journalists. The truth deserved daylight, no matter the cost. The story broke Monday morning. CEO under investigation for embezzlement screamed headlines across business news. Richard Chen's photo joined Daniels in the Hall of Shame. The office descended into chaos. Emergency board meetings happened daily. Federal investigators arrived. Employees whispered nervously, wondering if we'd all be out of jobs soon. I kept my head down, continuing my work, knowing the firestorm I'd unleashed. Wednesday, the board requested my presence at an emergency session. I walked into the conference room expecting accusations, maybe even termination. Instead, the board chair, Eleanor Martinez, gestured to a seat. "We know it was you," she said quietly. "The leak. The SEC report. Your fingerprints are all over this." My heart pounded. I said nothing. Eleanor continued, "Richard resigned this morning. Effective immediately. He's facing criminal charges." She looked around at the other board members, then back to me. "We need someone to lead us through this crisis. Someone with integrity. Someone willing to do the hard thing, even when it's painful." My mouth went dry. "What are you asking?" "Interim CEO," Eleanor said. "Until we complete a full search. The company needs stability. It needs someone employees trust." "That's you, Ava." I stared at them, speechless. From disposable employee to interim CEO in less than a year. The irony was almost unbearable. "I need 24 hours to think," I finally managed. They agreed. As I left, I passed Daniel's empty office, then Richard's empty office, both casualties of their own corruption. I called Jennifer. "They want me to be CEO." Her laugh echoed through the phone. "Of course they do. You're the only one who hasn't betrayed everyone's trust." I accepted the position. My appointment as Director of Operations, Daniel's exact former title, was announced company-wide. They'd offered CEO, but I'd negotiated, Director first, prove myself, then consider CEO later. I needed to earn it properly. The announcement included my photo, bio, and a message about ethical leadership. I sat in Daniel's old office, my office now, staring at the same glass walls where he'd orchestrated so much cruelty. The view was different from this side. Marcus stopped by with coffee. "You did it. You actually did it." I shook my head. "I just survived. The company did the rest." He smiled. "No, Ava. You fought back. That changed everything." That evening, I turned on the news while making dinner. The business report showed my photo alongside the headline, "Chen takes helm after corporate scandal." As the anchor discussed my background, the screen split. On the other side appeared Daniel's face from his mugshot. He'd been arrested for his role in the Meridian deal. The anchor noted, "Morrison, who once held Chen's current position, is now facing multiple charges." The camera caught Daniel sitting on a couch somewhere, watching TV. His face was visible for just a moment through a window. Tears streamed down his cheeks. I turned off the TV, feeling no satisfaction. Just a quiet sadness for what might have been if he'd chosen differently. My phone buzzed. An email from Daniel Morrison. Subject line, "I'm sorry." Against my better judgment, I opened it. The email was short. "Ava, I only meant to push you. To motivate you to be better. You became better than I ever was. Better than I ever could be. I was threatened by your talent, so I tried to diminish it. I know you won't forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I wanted you to know, you proved me wrong about everything. I hope you succeed where I failed. Daniel. I read it 3 times. Part of me wanted to feel triumph. He'd admitted everything. Admitted he was wrong. But mostly I just felt tired. I clicked reply and typed. Daniel, you didn't make me better. You made me realize I was already valuable. The only thing you proved was that cruelty says more about the person wielding it than the person receiving it. I hope you learn from this. I hope you become someone who builds others up instead of tearing them down. But your growth isn't my responsibility. It never was. I'm moving forward now. I suggest you do the same. Ava. I hovered over the send button for a long moment. Then I pressed it. A few seconds later, I did something more important. I deleted his contact information. His name disappeared from my phone, my email, my life. He was my past. I had a future to build. The next morning, I started mentoring junior employees. One young woman reminded me of myself 5 years ago, talented, uncertain, underestimated. I told her, "You're not disposable. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." She smiled, and I saw hope in her eyes. A year passed. I settled into my role as director of operations. The company stabilized, rebuilt its reputation, and implemented strict ethics policies I'd helped design. We became an industry leader in corporate responsibility and employee welfare. The annual Women's Leadership Conference invited me as keynote speaker. I stood backstage, nervous despite all I'd accomplished. The moderator called my name. I walked into blinding stage lights, facing an audience of 3,000 people. "Thank you for being here," I began. "I want to tell you about the moment that changed my life. A man once called me disposable in front of 30 people. He meant to break me. Instead, he freed me. I spoke for 20 minutes about standing up to bullies, protecting your work, and knowing your worth. About how the worst moments can become launching pads if you refuse to stay down." The audience listened intently. During Q&A, a journalist asked, "What inspired your remarkable rise?" I smiled, thinking about that conference room, that terrible word, that awful day. "A man once called me disposable," I replied. He was right. I disposed of everything that held me back. My fear, my need for approval, my willingness to accept less than I deserved. The audience erupted in applause. Later, reviewing photos from the event, I found something interesting. The company Daniel had tried to destroy? It was now reporting to my division. We'd acquired them in a merger 3 months ago. I drafted a short handwritten note. "Daniel, thank you for calling me disposable. It taught me I was irreplaceable. Your former company reports to mine now. I thought you'd want to know how this story ended. Ava." I addressed it to his last known address. Then I sealed it, added a stamp, and dropped it in the mailbox. Some lessons are worth teaching, even to teachers who never wanted to learn. I walked back to my office, sunlight warming my face, ready for whatever came next. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all: the only person who can make you disposable is yourself. And I never would again. What an incredible story. What was your favorite moment? Have you ever dealt with a toxic boss like Daniel? Share your story in the comments below, and tell me where you're watching from today. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for more powerful stories every day. Remember, you're never disposable. See you in the next one.